Android watches spent a long time being good, but not great. There were many models that almost nailed it, but just could not quite hit that target in many different ways. Software, features, hardware, fitness tracking, health metrics, smart integrations. There is an awful lot that goes into making a top-class wearable that you just don't have to think about. And this generation might have figured that one out, so let's talk about that. Hey guys, I'm Ryan Thomas, and I have spent an awful lot of time in the last year checking out and testing smartwatches from the likes of Samsung, Google and OnePlus. I've come away from reviewing those wearables thinking, wow, Wear OS is actually pretty good now. Because the thing is, for a long time, Android watches were pretty bad. By the way guys, really trying to hit 500,000 subscribers, so if you wouldn't mind hitting that button, it'd mean the world to us. Thank you very much. For the longest time, Android watches just could not hit the mark, and I remember the very early versions of Android Wear running on the likes of the Moto 360, a then groundbreaking piece of tech with a wonderful round shape, though of course with that flat tire design thing on the bottom which not everyone loves. It was certainly a pioneer, but it was also expensive. The fitness features lacked an awful lot of depth, and the battery life was a particular sore point for that watch. In these early years of smartwatches, coming from a traditional watch was incredibly jarring. Smartwatches were not really mainstream in 2014 to 2015. They were still reserved for tech nerds and geeks, and having to charge your watch every 20 hours or so was not something many were really ready for. Part of the initial draw of what made a smartwatch great is generally the fitness tracking capabilities, because you wouldn't have that on a traditional watch. Whether you're an athlete or someone who just wants to keep an eye on your sleep and step count, the sensors inside of your smartwatch are a big part of why you'd even consider dropping a regular watch for one in the first place. And that for a long time wasn't really ideal on Android smartwatches. Many like myself who aren't even athletes switched away from Android Wear to dedicated fitness watches like Garmin's and Coros for actually accurate tracking and way better battery life. Now, these things certainly aren't at the level of like proper lab specialist equipment, but for consumers, they were the only real option for many years for those wanting to take things a little bit more seriously when it came to health and fitness tracking. The Apple Watch, the default for many, not only because of the iPhone's popularity worldwide, was kind of for the last 5 years or so a really good balance between smart capabilities and fitness tracking accuracy. But with the current generation Wear OS devices, things have taken a bit of a step up. We're now on Wear OS 5 with the Pixel Watch 3, the OnePlus Watch 3 and the Galaxy Watch Ultra. There is an awful lot to like, with some fantastic hardware implementations to showcase that software. Probably the default in most people's minds has to be the Pixel Watch, in particular the 3rd generation, and we're about to go on to the 4th. These are a fantastic balance of hardware and software. The fitness tracking capabilities in recent times have also taken a major step up, with far better GPS tracking if you're remotely interested in using something like this for running or cycling. The Pixel Watch 3 is actually a really good option, and the display and performance show off Wear OS really well. Specialist fitness tech reviewer DC Rainmaker was actually really impressed with what this watch can do, and that is big praise coming from him. Though I thoroughly enjoyed my time with it during my review period. Perhaps the biggest bit though is that watch is so unique in its pedal form factor, meaning that it isn't overly bulky, should fit most people's wrists, no dramas, and if you want, it can be a conversation starter because it doesn't really look like anything else on the market. The battery life is also a solid day minimum, with 2 days possible if you really stretch things out. You do have to stretch things out, by the way. It's not 2-day by default, but it's at least doable. And you don't need a Pixel to get the best out of that watch. You can connect that to pretty much anything and you still get the full functionality. In fact, if the leaks are anything to go by, Google's upcoming Pixel Watch 4 looks to be a really slick upgrade on the 3's brilliant base. It looks like the charging pins are going to be relocated to the side of the watch instead of the bottom like they have been on previous versions, requiring a new charger for potentially faster top-up times. I am really looking forward to reviewing this in full when it comes out, so be sure to hit subscribe and stay tuned for that. If you wanted the techie choice with dual processors, a more fancy and traditional design, and a beastly battery life, the OnePlus Watch 3 is a standout this year for me. It's on the larger side, it's not going to fit everyone's wrist, but this thing is like a flagship killer type device. It's got all the specs you could possibly ask for. This, in typical OnePlus fashion, is built with enthusiasts in mind. And I think anyone who has held out for a watch that performs better and has better battery life should absolutely go for one of these. The fitness tracking capabilities really surprised me back at the start of the year when I reviewed it, and there's quite a lot of data to dig through in the after run report, for example. The big one with this watch is perhaps its size. I have tiny little wrists and it just was not comfortable enough for me to wear daily, but I'm a bit of an anomaly in this way, so I think for most people it probably is going to be alright. As in, it's a very similar size to other large fitness watches, it's not especially large. But it is absolutely gorgeous, and certainly with the strap change would do the job on special occasions at dinner and so on. It is a wonderful thing. But I've saved my favourite till last. My favourite Android smartwatch has to be the Galaxy Watch Ultra. I didn't expect to come into that review as a big Garmin fan and for it to essentially prize me away from my Phoenix 7. Sure, it's not the cheapest model out there, and it's certainly a big chunky thing, but it also packs in fantastic battery life, a gorgeous display, a nice rugged feeling on the wrist and in the hand, which I think most Android smartwatches have sort of missed out on in previous years. And the quality and quantity of data that you get, similarly to the OnePlus setup, is really, really good. The dual band GPS felt like a major step up from previous Galaxy watches that I've reviewed, and I really do like that sort of faux physical bezel, where it uses the touchscreen to sense your finger moving around the edge of the display and gives you haptic feedback in a similar way to how previous physical Samsung Classic bezels have worked, but with far fewer moving parts. The buttons are also really satisfying to use. Samsung sort of refreshed the watch with a new colorway unpacked this year, but not really anything beyond that. Meaning that if you went and bought an original now, which has been heavily discounted on many different sites, you were getting a serious amount of watch for the money. They've ended up being like half the cost of an Apple Watch Ultra 2, which is a massive deal if you ask me. We've got to a point now where battery life, fitness tracking capabilities, and software integration are all so good that if you're waiting on a good Wear OS smartwatch, you no longer really need to hold out, even if you're someone who takes health and fitness very seriously. Wear OS watches got good, and there are plentiful options to choose from. Are you a Wear OS user? There are so many great options and more brands than I've mentioned in this video, so if you have one, let us know in the comments which you're running and what phone you're pairing it with. My favourite really has to be the Galaxy Watch Ultra, but I'm still on Garmin for now. Anyway, whilst you're down there, be sure to hit like if you enjoyed today's content and subscribe to never miss another upload on this channel. Thank you all so much for watching. I've been Ryan Thomas and I will catch you later. Cheers.